Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Home with Kimberly. So today I am making some lemon almond biscotti. Biscotti is just a twice baked cookie. It originated in Italy, and I'm sure most of you know what that is. It's just that little, thin looking round shape like this. You typically can dip it in your coffee or your tea, any kind of beverage like that. And of course I had to make some because I just set up my coffee tea bar, so I needed something to go in my clear little jar to look cute and quaint, and of course give us something to dip into our drinks in the morning. So I had to bake mine not twice but 3 times because my oven temperature runs lower than normal. I knew that I should have set my oven temperature higher when I started baking this, but I didn't. I just followed directly along with the recipe. Well, the second time you'll see when I let my biscotti cool the first time it came out and I started to slice into it, you'll see it was still kind of doughy up towards the top, so I had to end up putting it back in my oven on a higher temperature to get that all the way cooked through. So just make sure if you are making this and you bring it out after you baked it the first time, I would check it with a toothpick just to make sure it is cooked all the way through. But other than that, this is a very simple recipe and it turned out so good. Just the smell of the almond and lemon together, it's 2 of my favorite flavors. So I think you'll really enjoy this, so let's get started. Okay, so to start off, you're going to grease your pan. I actually ended up using this oval dish because it was the perfect shape for my biscotti, but you can also put this on a regular sheet pan. Just make sure you spray it first. So next we're going to get a mixing bowl, and you'll see my KitchenAid mixer in the background and think, why is she not using that? Because it's broken. So I'm just adding 6 tablespoons of butter to my bowl. I believe 1 teaspoon of salt, 2/3 cup of sugar, and all of this is going to be creamed together here shortly. I think I used 1 1/4 teaspoons of almond extract. You can use 3/4 teaspoon, just depends how heavy you want that almond flavor. And I also zested a lemon, the entire lemon, into the bowl. And then I added, I believe, 1 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And just keep mixing that all together with your mixer until it becomes creamy. Then you're going to add in some lemon juice, and I just used that fresh lemon that I cut up, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. Next I added in 2 eggs, and then I'm going to mix that all together. Once that is all combined, you're going to start slowly adding in 2 cups of flour, and I just did a half a cup at a time, and put your mixer on low. And once you have all the flour incorporated, just dump that into your baking pan or onto your sheet pan. If it's on a sheet pan, it needs to be into an oval shape, and then you also want to smooth out the top with the spatula. If you wet the spatula, it will make it easier so it won't stick. Okay, so the instructions are to let this bake for 25 minutes at 350 degrees. My oven does not get hot enough, and I should have put my temperature higher. So as you can see, as I'm cutting into this, it came out a little bit doughy, so I did have to put mine back in. Definitely make sure at this point when you take it out that you check it with a toothpick, poke it on top to make sure it is fully cooked. Okay, so this is after the third time that I had to bake my biscotti, and you can see it's kind of crumbling a little bit, falling apart here and there as I'm cutting it. And in the recipe, it actually says to get a little spritzer and spray the bread with some water first. That will help soften up that hard crust and make it easier to cut through. And I would recommend doing that. I suspect if you do so, your pieces will stay together better. Now, I just feel like it made mine look rustic. Of course, that makes me feel better to say that, but definitely don't skip that step, and I would spray it with the water. At this point, you're going to lower your oven temperature to 325 degrees and bake for another 25 to 30 minutes to get this good and crunchy and golden brown on top. Now, as my biscotti is finishing up in the oven, I'm going to take a half of a cup of powdered sugar in a bowl, And to it, I'm going to add some of that leftover lemon that I had from earlier to kind of drive home that lemony flavor. And then the last thing I'm going to add is just a few drops of milk. And this is going to make my nice lemony glaze to go over my biscotti once it has completely cooled. Okay, so this is my baked biscotti after I baked it for the third time, which should have only been the second time. You can see how nice and browned it got on top, so I'm going to let this cool completely before I start icing it. So now I am taking a little baggie and I'm going to pour my icing down in that to sort of make myself a little pastry bag so I can have better control over my icing. I'm just going to clip off a little bitty piece of that corner there so I can drizzle the icing over my biscotti and just make it look nice and neat and pretty. And the biscotti is completely cooled at this time, so I'm just going to let that drizzle sit on there. And then I will transfer this over to my little jar area. And this is how it is looking, all nice and iced up. And this turned out so delicious. It really had the perfect crunch to it. I don't like my biscotti super crunchy, but if you like yours that way, you can cook it a little bit longer. I might slice mine a little thinner next time, but it really turned out amazing. Very simple recipe. I'm so excited for my husband to see it and ask me what it is so I can say, oh, that's just biscotti, ain't no thing. But I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. If so, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you try it, if you have other biscotti recipes that you use, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!